so blessed, my Lord, I can see you. In all the lovely things so fine and true, I see you in the beauty of the flowers and the rain. I see you between the lines of a sweet refrain. I'm so blessed, my Lord, I can see you. Even when I'm lonely and in pain, I see you in the beauty of the stars at night. I see you in my life, I feel alright. I see you, Lord, in sorrow and in happiness. I see you in the glory of sweet success. I see you, Lord, every hour, every day. I can see you, Lord, whenever I pray. I'm so blessed, my Lord, I can see you in the smile of a baby, sweet and true. I can see you in the eyes of my very best friends. I see you in these bonds, just like your love that never ends. I see you, Lord, in sorrow and in happiness. I see you in the glory of sweet success. I see you, Lord, every hour, every day. I can see you, Lord, whenever I pray. I see you, Lord, in sorrow and in happiness. I see you with the glory of sweet success. I see you, Lord, every hour, every day. I can see you, Lord, whenever I pray. I pray. I can see you, Lord, whenever I pray. I see you, Lord.
Bayang magiliw, pero sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, kuya ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, kita masisingil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mo bahay. Ay nilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang tinamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y nagumpay na nagiging. Ang bituin at araw niya ay nagpapalay magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng maraming pagsita, layalangin sa likod. Aming ligaya naman may mamagin, at lahat ay nagdahil sa'yo.
A pleasant morning to everyone and welcome to the second session of the PSAU Haynayan webinar series, organized by PSAU Live and PSAU Haynayan of Pampanga State Agricultural University. All interested participants are welcome to join our live session on the PSAU Biology Society's Facebook page. This session is going to be a week-long event. Today's theme is Geographic Information System in Environmental Research. Tomorrow will be about biodiversity assessment and specimen preparation. On August 18, we'll be having environmental sampling techniques, soil, air, and water. And on August 20, ethics on social research and gap analysis. Our second session is a collaboration between the College of Arts and Sciences Department of Biology, External and Internal Affairs Office, Innovation Center for Agroecology, Climate Change, and Agripreneurship, and the PSAU Biology Society. Before anything else, I just want to acknowledge everyone who are here with us today, starting from our speaker, faculty members, students and professionals from various universities and institutions in the Philippines. Let me introduce myself. I am Jimwell Peñafiel, your host for today. To formally start the program, we are pleased to have our ever supportive Vice President for Academic Affairs and is currently the officer in charge for our university. May I call on Dr. Anita G. David to give her welcome remarks.
Brosin mo rin yung aso kasi.
Okay, ano na nangyari dun sa aso? Anyway, this is really the reality of having online seminars, webinars. Our reality now. That's okay. So we have Dr. Evelyn Vitotaan, the department chair of the Department of Biology under the College of Arts and Sciences. We also have Dr. Rafael, the director of the External and International Affairs Office, Dr. Gerald Salas, the director for Innovation Center for Agroecology, Climate Change, and Agripreneurship. We have the advisors of the Biology Society. We also have Dr. Karen Wico. Pasensya na kayo yung mga institusyon na i-mention ko. No? We also have Professor Marieta Soriano. Sino pa po ba? Yung dito, lahat ng faculty members from the Department of Biology, also from the crop science, all the faculty members sa lahat na nagpa-participate dito, and also the students. Isang magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. The Department of Biology, in collaboration with the Biology Society and everybody involved here, they are really unstoppable. We had one also last Saturday for the graduate students, and the speakers were all products of PSAU. And this time, this is the second leg of the webinar series for this one. The resource persons are friends of those involved. So we are here, and we are thankful to them that they were able to give time for PSAU. As I always say, I am proud that the PSAU people is really doing this for everybody. Merong isang faculty member last week na nagsabi na ang laging sinasabi daw sa atin dati ni President Soriano sa mga estudyante ay you study, study, study. And for the teachers, we have to teach, teach, teach. So in living up to his legacy, we are thankful that the Department of Biology, with the involvement of everybody, you are continuing this through the learning, PSAU learning in a virtual environment. And this is one way of teaching the students what they're supposed to acquire. Even if we have this modality, it's a good thing that you have a lot of friends. There are a lot of connections so that we will be able to help one another. This is really a very good activity for all those who are involved we are always here. We are so supportive doon po sa lahat ng mga activities ng mga tao na involved dito. Alam ko na nagpapagod sila, that kahit dito there are still a lot of tasks to be performed, but still with their diligence and with what they have, they're really doing this for the university. It's a very good way to start the week. I always say this: we have to be blessings to one another. We have to be the solutions to all the problems or to all the concerns, and we should not be the problem. So in PSAU, we have to make that our mantra. Whatever the situation is, life should go on, and we have to perform all our tasks. Again, we are so thankful for this one. Congratulations to the organizers. Thank you to the resource persons. Thank you for extending your friendship to all those who invited you, even in professional ways. Tiyagaan po natin itong 1 week na to. Pinaghirapan po nila. So yung mga participants, I hope that you will be there for them from the beginning until the end. We have to start our week right, and we have to be there for them ang simula sa simula hanggang sa matapos. Kahit na po kasama dito sa virtual webinar yung mga aso, yung mga manok, or kung sino man nakasama sa pamilya ninyo, at least everybody is learning yung sa buong pamilya. So I am so thankful that you have this. Salamat ulit po sa inyo. We will recognize whatever efforts that you put in for PSAU to be able to achieve its mandates. Ingat po kayo lagi. God bless all of us, and thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, ma'am. We extend our deepest gratitude for making time to be with us today, despite your busy schedule. Let me mention again that we are live on Facebook. Kindly share our live video to support our week-long event. Thank you. To maintain the order of this event, here are a few simple house rules to follow. Please make sure to mute your microphone while the session is ongoing. For our Zoom attendees, we would like to remind you to rename your Zoom display name starting from your institution's acronym and your full name. Also, may I just remind everyone that you may type in your questions for the speaker on our chat box for our Zoom attendees or in the comment section of our Facebook viewers. Lastly, the links for our attendance and post-evaluation will be posted in our Zoom chat box as well as in the comment section of our Facebook Live. Certificates will be given upon accomplishing the post-evaluation form, so please stay tuned and join us until the end of this program. With that, I guess all of us are now excited to finally meet our resource speaker for today. May I now call on Dr. Evelyn Vitotaan, our department chair, to introduce our speaker. Doc Eve.
Good morning to each and everyone. I have the honor to introduce to you our speaker for today's PSAU Hainayan webinar and PSAU Live webinar series. Our speaker who will talk on Geographic Information System in Environmental Science is an assistant professor at the Institute of the Renewable Natural Resources, College of Forestry and Natural Resources, University of the Philippines, Los Baños. He is a registered forester and environmental planner and an associate member of the National Research Council of the Philippines. He obtained both his undergraduate degree in forestry and graduate degree in natural resources conservation from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. He also taught a continuing education subject in Geographic Information System at Dickinson College in Pennsylvania. His research interests and studies include the applications of GIS and remote sensing in natural resources management and environmental planning. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you is Assistant Professor John Joseph B. Dida. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much po for inviting me, and thank you very much po kay Dr. Gerald Salas, sir. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity of sharing what we have been doing, no, in these past few months, especially that the pandemic has started. Medyo may mga nabuo kaming mga methodologies, and I'm glad to share this with you, no. So let me share my slide, and I'll be talking about GIS in environmental research, but I will be focusing on the use of Kobo Toolbox and QGIS in actually in forest inventory, no. But these tools, no, these techniques can also be used in other applications and studies, for example, in agriculture and in planning, no. So these tools that I'll be showing are actually useful and have a lot of applications. Now, in the context of forest inventory, you know, because in environmental research, one of the factors that we need to look into are the forest, no. So before we characterize our environment, we need to first characterize our forest, no? And one of the major activities in characterizing the forest is the forest inventory. So forest inventory is actually the procedure for obtaining information on the, first we have the quantity, no? So how many trees are there in a specific area? What is the quality of these trees? Are they standard? Are they veteran or merely seedlings or saplings, no? And the condition of the forest resource. So meron ba tayong mga diseases na present? Meron ba tayong mga pests? And including its components. So if we are going to include, for example, the animals or the fauna or the soil or the physical, meaning the rainfall, the humidity, no? So we also take into consideration those components, no? And the characteristics of the land area, which actually includes the total area, the tenurial instrument, kung meron man, halimbawa siya by CBM area, or siya by classified as alien disposable or forest land, no? So we also take into consideration this information. And the ultimate goal is actually to manage, no, and to answer some policy questions, no. So if we're, for example, looking into yung existing stand and stock, meaning how much timber resources are there, then we need to count the number of trees and take their diameter, for example, di ba? And if we're talking about EIA naman, we need to account for the trees that will be cut down because of a certain project or land conversion, for example, or land use change. So forest inventory is first step, no? But when we say environmental research, we also characterize not only the forest but the agriculture, no? The agricultural areas. We also characterize the fauna, the animals, and the socio-economic condition of the people, no? So pati yung mga tao. So this is just one of the components, no, that I'll be focusing on when it comes to environmental research. When it comes to forest inventory and management, no, we usually think in the strategic level, meaning the entire forest. And when we think of the strategic level, we think of the long-term forest management. So ano ba ang gusto natin mangyari doon sa kagubatan in the next 10 years, for example? So ito ba ay for production lang or for biodiversity conservation? So we need forest inventory so that we can better plan the next 5 to 10 years of our forest. Diba? When we say operational level, ito yung mas specific, no? Mga certain plots siguro or smaller areas, smaller patches. Ito naman, magagamit natin yung forest inventory for harvest planning. Kung yun nga, kung for production ba yung forest natin, halimbawa tayo ay merong mga gemilina doon na ginagamit natin for timber purposes. Kung meron tayong rubber or tapping, no, we have to take into account the number of trees present. No? And if we're talking about road layout, di ba, yung mga road widening natin, we need to also consider the number of trees that will be cut down, no, to give way for the road construction and other silvicultural activities. So we have to know the number of trees, know what kind of trees are there, so that we'll be able to plan our silvicultural activities. Yeah. Now, through the years, the primary objective of forest inventory, no, has changed. In 1950s, we do forest inventory mainly for timber harvesting. So magpuputol tayo ng puno, kaya bibilangin natin siya. But of course, there has been a development, no, when it comes to the management of natural resources. So we also take into consideration the other resources that can be found in the forest. That is why we are now talking about, for example, the biomass, the carbon stock, because our international scenario, no, wants to account the carbon storage. Kasi meron na tayong REDD++, meron na tayong mga greenhouse gases, no, inventory. Kaya pumapasok na sa eksena yung biomass. But in the previous years, talagang nearly volume lang, no? Volume of harvestable trees for forest products. And since we are also talking about conservation, pumapasok na din sa inventory yung biodiversity assessment. So we identify the unique species, we compute for the diversity indices, the species richness, the evenness, no? Kaya kumbaga yung inventory natin, kapag dumadagdag na yung mga information na gusto nating malaman, it sometimes entails additional costs, no? Mayroon tayong mga dinadagdag na equipment, meron tayong kailangan idagdag na number of personnel involved. So it actually depends on your objective, no? Whether you need to, for example, get biodiversity only, or you're after carbon only, or the faunal information assessment. So it depends on your objective. No, you can actually plan out your inventory activity. What are the usual measurements, no, in the forest inventory? We take a look at into the trees, no, the individual trees, and we get their first the diameter. So ito yung kanyang lapad, okay? We use the diameter tape usually to get the diameter of trees. We get the height. Okay, so when we get the height, we use ABNY hand level or the Haga altimeter, no? We use the trigonometric equation to determine the height of the trees. Then we take a look at the health and vitality of forest ecosystems. Usually we inspect, no, if there are fungi, if there are insects, no, and other vectors na nakaka-affect doon sa health ng ating trees. We also take a look at the quality, no, yung mga sanga-sanga na mapuputol na, yung mga rats. So we take a look at the health and vitality of the trees, and also including the forest ecosystem as a whole. So kung meron bang katabing patch of grassland, we also take a look at that. Kung merong settlements, no? So kinukonsider din natin 'yon. Then the fourth information or measurement that we take a look at into is the biological diversity. That is why whenever we conduct forest inventory or forest assessment, we identify the species of each trees We identify the conservation status so that we would know kung ito ba ay endemic, ito ay exotic, no? Kung ito ba ay kaunti na lang sa Pilipinas or sa buong mundo. Kapag nalaman natin, for example, that itong particular species na ito or particular tree na ito ay endemic, then we involve certain measures, no, na para ma-conserve siya, or kumbaga kung siya man ay tatanggalin, ano ba, ililipat ba natin to or magtatanim na lang tayo ng ganitong species sa ibang lugar, no? So kaya mahalaga na alam din natin yung pangalan ng mga trees natin, and we also know the conservation status. And ito namang panlima, the last measurement or information that we gather in our forest inventory is the environmental and socioeconomic services. Usually ito yung mga interview natin sa households or surveys na kinoconduct natin. So if our concern is, for example, valuation or the value of the forest, sometimes we employ payment for ecosystem services, no? Yung mga hedonic pricing natin, and this would involve surveys, no, mga questionnaires. And dyan papasok actually yung i-introduce kong tool later, which is the Kobo Toolbox. But we can also use Kobo Toolbox to gather the former measurements, itong diameter to biological diversity, no? And I will explain that later on kung paano magagamit si Kobo Toolbox. In forest inventory, we can employ several approaches, no? But when it comes to environmental research, ito rin usually yung ginagamit natin na approach, no? First, we have remote sensing. So remote sensing provides us with explicit data, especially explicit data for large areas, of course at considerable costs, no? So when we conduct environmental research, when we do inventory planning, we need to have a reconnaissance, no, activity, or we need to identify the general characteristics or features of our area. And remote sensing is actually a cheaper way of doing that. We can use Google Earth Pro to take a look at the area, the general characteristic of our area. We can use satellite images, no? But Google Earth Pro is very useful for general inspection lang, para lang makita ninyo kung ano yung dominant land use, because it's high resolution, no? It has a high resolution, at the same time it's free. So pwede ninyo makita dito kung ang area ba ay, for example, dominated by buildings, mostly agriculture ba siya, or mostly trees or bare, no? And if you know the dominant land use or land cover in your area, then you can plan your research or your survey activity, no? You can employ whether it's a systematic sampling or stratified, or pwedeng mag-random na lang kung homogeneous naman, di ba? So remote sensing is a good tool for us to see, no, the area as a whole, no, in general. And it's free. For the satellite images, we have the Landsat 8, we have the Sentinel-2, no? So those are multispectral images that are free, and you can download these, no? But there are information that you cannot see in the satellite images, no? Hindi mo siya makikita doon. And that is why we still need to include, no, field assessment activities or approaches. In field assessment, essential components are actually determined or identified. In your satellite images, you cannot see animals. Hindi mo makikita yung animals. You cannot easily determine the height of the trees or the species of the plants that are there. So you have to go on the ground. You have to visit the area itself in order to identify the species, in order to do sampling, and in order to record, for example, the animals that are present, to conduct survey. So these information are not available, no, using remote sensing. So you have to do field assessment. And of course, our resources, our financial resources are limited. That is why we do sampling, especially for large areas. We employ sampling, we consider a certain percentage, for example, 20% sampling intensity or 30, because we cannot visit the entire area. Now, when it comes to forest inventory, if you want to project, if you want to estimate the harvestable volume, then you can employ sampling techniques and then blow up the estimation. So you can actually do that. But regardless of those techniques, we still have to do yung field assessment. We have to visit the area because our remote sensing technology is still limited, no, when it comes to determining the yield of the volume. But you can actually do that if you have LiDAR technology. But no, limited pa rin tayo pagdating dyan. Okay. Now, what are the phases involved in inventory planning? Actually, when we talk about inventory planning, pwede rin naman sa resource assessment ito. Environmental research, pwede rin siya. We actually have 4 phases here. Okay, we have the study phase, for example. In the study phase, we try to determine what is the objective of conducting this activity. What is the situation on the ground? We take into account also the initial assessment. So, marami bang residents dito? Do we have security issues doon sa area, for example? So we need to consider those things, no, when we plan our research or our inventory. Then comes the design phase. So how do you design your inventory or assessment? So you also try to determine the sampling intensity, no, depending on the purpose or depending on the objective of your activity. You try to identify the people. So yung inventory team mo ba or the research team, ilan ba dapat ang meron dyan? Magsasama ka ba ng fauna specialist or purely forestry students or foresters? Or is this about ano lang, parang physical inventory lang? So soil ba ito or hindi ka na magsasama ng trees? So you identify the personnel. Then you also identify the software that you will be using. You also develop the field manual. Pagdating doon sa ground, anong gagawin ni person A, ni person B, ni person C. Okay? So dapat mapag-usapan ito sa design phase pa lang para yung resources din natin, makapag-budget din tayo ng maayos. Then comes the development phase. In the development phase, we do field testing, we review the techniques that we employ in the inventory or the resource assessment. So we practice the measurement of the diameter, the height, we practice our identification of the plants, no, yung mga skills natin dyan kasi mahirap naman mag-identify talaga ng species. We try to test the equipment, yung ating mga sampling equipment ba ay gumagana. So we also prepare our equipment, we test them para pagdating dito sa last phase, which is the operation phase, ay ready na, no? Kumbaga yung inventory activity mo or the research activity mo ay papasok doon sa number of days na inalat mo lang. Kasi halimbawa, meron ka lang inalat na 5 days to do this activity para sa isang hektarya, then dapat ano na kayo, parang practice na kayo bago pa dumating yung araw na yon, di ba? Then you can also use remote sensing na rin. No? You can also do reconnaissance survey doon sa area ninyo using remote sensing to identify kung saan kayo papasok, kung saan kayo mag-umpisa na plot, saan yung pinakamadali, saan yung pinakamahirap, kung matarik ba siya. No? So you have to consider those and you can use remote sensing. Then you do the field survey itself and you evaluate the data that you will gather. So dito na ngayon papasok yung mga software na gagamitin natin such as the QGIS, and you can also use Cobalt Toolbox. I will show that later. Okay? Now, pasok na tayo sa inventory and GIS. But it's also applicable when it comes to environmental research. No? GIS has the capability to store, to integrate, to analyze, display spatially referenced data. Kung nanood kayo nung mga previous PSAU live sessions natin, they talked about GIS. So mga kasamahan din ni Sir Gerald yun sa environmental science. And using GIS, you can develop database, forest database, you can develop faunal database and other resources. No? You can show them as a map. So ito yung power ni GIS. Diba? So those information na kukunin mo sa field, the trees, the animal sightings, yung mga sampling points mo, these are displayed as spatially referenced data. So what do we say when we talk about spatially referenced data? Ito yung mga makikita mo on the Earth's surface. Meron siyang tinatawag na longitude and latitude. So if it's not found on the Earth's surface, then it is not spatially referenced data. That is why in GIS, the premise of your data is that it should be spatially referenced. No? So if it cannot be displayed on the Earth's surface, then it's not a GIS data. So ganun lang. Kaya yung mga sampling points natin, kung saan kayo for example, nagkuha ng soil samples, yung location na yon, that is spatially referenced data. Kung saan ka may nakitang mga animals, mga faunal na sightings mo, mga bats, tapos kinuhanan mo ng readings ng GPS yon, that is spatially referenced. And it's also very true for our plants, for our trees. Kasi standing naman siya dyan, nandyan lang siya, nakatayo. So when you get the coordinates, that is spatially referenced data. Meron kang longitude and latitude. Okay? Now, in the context of forest inventory, GIS facilitates initial database development. Kasi si GIS naman, it's like a combination of your paint, kasi may mga drawings ka doon, you have lines, points, polygons, and Excel or spreadsheet. So each feature has a corresponding row or element doon sa non-spatial or attribute data mo. Yung parang spreadsheet niya. Meron siyang corresponding na row doon. So if you have a spreadsheet or an Excel type of data, then you can actually do analysis. No? You can create graphs, you can create charts or line graphs, mga ganon. And then you can also integrate your data with other spatial data sets. So yung mga ano natin, for example, settlements, yung mga location ng settlements, yung mga location ng mga important points of interest. So pwede mong overlay doon, pwede mong i-compare yung presence ng trees mo and yung mga other points of interest natin. No? A good example would be yung mga harvesting plants natin, mga wood processing plants. So if you have the location of those, then you can actually plan, diba, the road leading to the harvesting area. Kung halimbawa yung forest mo is for harvesting, you can plan the road. No? Tapos kung halimbawa naman ang concern mo is tapping, yung mga resins natin, so pwede mo ring i-compare yung location ng rubber trees mo tsaka yung location ng mga sellers. So ganyan ka powerful si GIS. No? You can do those kinds of analysis. And then finally, for our decision makers, we need to show them the maps. So we can use our GIS data, we can use GIS to display these features, no, as maps so that we can decide whether, for example, to cut down this specific portion of forest, no? Puputulin ba natin siya? I-clear out ba natin siya? So anong implication niya, di ba? Ito ba ay malapit sa kalsada? Ganyan. So kailangan natin ng mapa, and only GIS can do this kind of technique. Okay? Now, some of the GIS software available are ArcGIS and QGIS. So we can actually classify our available software according to its commercial status or open source status. So when we say commercial, we actually have to buy the license. No? So ang license natin sa ArcGIS, I think, would range around 1 to 2 to 3 million. No? So mahal yung software. But the good thing about ArcGIS is that you can also use the other functionalities. No, you can develop web maps. You can develop online maps using ArcGIS. So yun lang yung kagandahan niya. And there are other techniques and extensions that you can use in ArcGIS. But the thing is, you have to buy. No, you have to buy the license. No? And dito sa Philippines, we only have one distributor, and that is, I think, Geodata. So yung presyo niya, mukhang mahal talaga, no? Mukhang aabot sa Board of Regents yung pag-approve ng mga procurement ng ganito kasi mahal siya. But maganda yung functionalities na meron siya. No. We also have manifold system, but I think this is limited to areas in the province. Yung mga offices natin sa DNR, some of the offices in the provinces ay gumagamit pa rin ng manifold. No. But it is already overshadowed by the presence of open source software. So open source, meaning you can freely download, it's freely available. And the good thing about this is that you can cite in your publications kasi wala siyang license. You can cite, you can mention the software. Unlike ArcGIS, pag wala kang license, di ba, you cannot mention the software in our publications. So QGIS is one of the substitute software. No, when we don't have enough budget, if we want simple analysis, simple techniques, we can use QGIS. And the most updated version is 3.16. So you can download the most updated version at qgis.org. Then we also have other open source GIS software like the Ilwis, the Saga, and the Grass. Okay? I think itong mga to ay simple yung interface niya. Sometimes may involved pa na coding. So you have to learn Python. Python, the scripting language. Okay? So medyo mahirap siya. But if you devote some of your time, then it's actually easy for you to learn those scripting languages. No? And Python is also applicable, no, and being used in the QGIS. Now, QGIS is a good tool for environmental research and forest inventory, no? Because some of the simple techniques can be done using QGIS. You don't have to use ArcGIS, no? If your objective is simple inventory, simple assessment, you can use QGIS. Okay, so it provides basic to intermediate GIS tools. You can also include base maps na ipapakita ko later, no? And some plugins that you can use in tree inventory. Napapakita ko rin later yan. Okay. This is the general interface of QGIS. We have the map view or the extent. We have the panels. We have the menu bar, the toolbars, and the processing toolbar. So hindi ko na masyadong i-discuss ito because this is a separate webinar itself. And I think na-discuss na rin ito sa mga previous na webinars natin dito sa PSAU. And the good thing about QGIS is that we have plugins. No? In plugins, you can download certain tools that will aid you in your research, no, in your inventory or environmental assessment. Okay, and the first one is okay. So before we proceed to the tools, no, we need to know, of course, our sources of data. Some of the free data that we can get are from National Mapping Resource and Information Authority, or NAMRIA. So you can request for the land cover data in your area. You can download maps o topographic maps. Meron tayong mga map sheets dito. If you want to have a free high resolution imagery, you can utilize Google Earth Pro. Now, Google Earth Pro is like a big globe. Parang app siya or software na merong big globe doon. Then you can zoom in to a specific portion, specific area. You will see yung mga buildings. No? You will see the buildings, you will see the road, you will see points of interest na malinaw doon. So Google Earth Pro is a good base map actually for environmental research and inventory or planning. Then we also have Philippine Geo Portal if we want to get mga hazard maps, hazard layers. So you can download them from Geo Portal. Geofabric.de, ito naman yung mga crowdsourced data natin. So when we say crowdsourced, ito ay contributed by different people. So hindi siya ganon ka-authoritative kasi pwede siyang palitan ng kahit sino. So some of the layers that we can download from OpenStreetMap are the roads, the points, no, mga buildings, and other features such as your streams or yung mga river networks natin. So these are crowdsourced layers. And you need to verify the presence of these features on the ground. Kasi pwede namang wala yung kalsada na yon. But at the same time, pwede ring nandun siya dahil dinagdag siya ng tao na mas familiar doon sa area. So may mga pros and cons itong crowdsourced data natin. Okay? Now, GADM maps and data, GADM stands for Global Administrative Boundaries. No? There are times when we cannot get yung mga barangay or city boundaries natin. So pwede tayong mag-download sa GADM. No? Ang problema lang, si GADM kasi medyo generalized siya. So ibig sabihin, pwedeng hindi accurate yung boundary natin doon. But still, it's a good source of data, a good source of information if we just want the general extent of our barangay, our city, or municipality. Okay? And of course, the best data is from the comprehensive land use plan. Kasi ito yung enacted. Enacted ito ng ano natin, ng Sangguniang Pandalawigan or Sangguniang Bayan. And it is also followed by the LGU itself, no? So ito yung authoritative. Pag sinabi nating city boundary ng CLUP, so expect natin na ito yung approved nung bayan. Kaya kung meron kayong pagkakataon na kumuha ng mga CLUP data, then dito tayo kumuha, no? So when it comes to environmental research, syempre kailangan natin makuha yung boundary nung bayan, di ba? Then gusto natin makuha yung land cover or land class, possibly ng DNR, pwede rin naman ng LGU, so that we can plan out the activities, no? Kung ano bang kailangan na permits natin kunin, kung mapasok tayo sa isang protected area, syempre kailangan natin magpaalam sa PAMB, no? So malalaman natin yan if we have the information from the CLUP or from the DNR. Okay? Now, if you have the initial layers, if you know the area, for example, kung saan ka na magko-conduct ng environmental research o ng survey, then you can use the tools of QGIS. And the first tool that you can use is the XYZ tiles in QGIS. So ano bang ginagawa ni XYZ tile? In XYZ tile, you can add a base map layer through URL connections, meaning using the internet, you can load base maps. No? Some of the available and useful base maps include OpenStreetMap and Google Earth Pro. So let me share to you the XYZ tile. So I hope you can see my QGIS screen. So XYZ tile is just found under the browser panel. So if you have, for example, you have already established the area, alam mo na kung saan ka magko-conduct ng research, for example. So pwede ka namang mag-pan or mag-zoom doon. If you have the boundary layer, if you have the shape files of the location, so you can load them in your QGIS. Then the next step is to add your base map. So kung gusto mo ng Google Earth, so you can add the Google Earth here. Yan. Diba? So the Google Earth provides you with an aerial view of the area. So pag meron ka ng aerial view, of course, pwede ka nang mag-determine ng ng sampling strategy mo, ng inventory strategy mo, or mga other elements of the survey. Diba? So you would know kung saan yung roads, you would know kung saan yung patches ng trees, saan yung buildings. So yun yung kagandahan ng pagkakaroon ng base map. Then if you're going to use sampling techniques, pwede ka na mag-layout dito ng mga sample plots mo. So if you're employing, for example, systematic sampling, if you're using line plot method, so you can establish your cruise line, then you can establish your circular plots or your strip plots if you're doing strip sampling. Diba? So makakatulong yung base map na yan. You can also use OpenStreetMap. Okay? Si OpenStreetMap naman, maganda siya for locating the area kasi hindi ganun ka labo yung roads. Very distinct dito yung roads natin. Then sometimes yung mga buildings identified na, 'di ba? Unlike your aerial photo, or unlike your Google Earth Pro, bubong lang makikita mo, 'di ba? So if you're going to use OpenStreetMap, you would know the specific name of the building, and it will help you, It will guide you in your planning. So kung halimbawa nag-establish ka nga ng line plot method in your sampling, tapos yung isang circular plot mo pumatak sa isang compound ng building. So pwede mo nang planuhin na hindi ito kasama sa inventory mo. Kung halimbawa puro building lang naman diyan, di ba? But still kasama siya sa sampling plot mo kasi meron kang system, di ba? Systematic, so meron kang system ng for every 5 meters may circular plot ka. So hindi pwedeng mawala ito, di ba? But you can actually adjust the entire sampling plots if you want to. Okay? So yan ang gamit ng XYZ tile. So you just load a new connection, tapos ilalagay mo lang yung URL. Okay? So yung URL, meron yan sa internet. Pwede mong ilagay yung mga URL ng mga base map natin. So hindi lang Google Earth at saka hindi lang si OpenStreetMap yung mga available na XYZ tiles natin. So marami pa, So ito lang yung example ko. Okay? But you still need internet whenever you use XYZ tile kasi siya parang cloud-based siya, ba? Then the next tool that you will use or is useful to you is digitizing. Actually, itong digitizing, basic ito sa GIS. But you use digitizing in order to generate points, lines, and polygon features. So if you want to create, yung mga circular plots natin, for example, yung mga strip sampling plots natin, then you need to use digitizing, the digitizing tool. And you can also use digitizing in order for you to locate trees using certain values. So ipapakita ko yun sa susunod na slide natin. Okay? And digitizing can be accessed using itong editor toolbar natin. So pwede nyong iset dito yung topology if you want the features to not overlap, for example. So pwede mong iset yan dyan. Okay? So ito na yung tinutukoy kong useful sa inventory, no? Yung azimuth distance plugin. So why is this very useful, no? In mapping trees, no, in mapping our individual trees, we can actually employ GPS or global positioning system using GPS receivers na i-discuss ko rin later on, or you employ yung tinatawag nating azimuth and distance. Okay? So mas mahalaga itong si azimuth and distance na value sa atin sa forestry. And other studies then that would involve heavy canopy. Bakit? Si GPS kasi, yung signal niya ay hindi siya accurate kapag nasa gubat ka. Di ba? So kapag gumamit ka ng GPS to get the location of individual trees sa loob ng gubat na masukal, then it will be inaccurate. Hindi mataas accuracy. Kaya ang ginagawa natin, no, if you want accurate location of trees, especially pagdating sa mapping, we use the azimuth and distance information. So paano ba siya ginagawa kadalasan? Pag meron kayong mga square plots, usually, ang ginagamit ninyong reference points ay yung mga corners. So yung mga corners lang natin usually ang may coordinates, di ba? And then from the corners, we determine the location of the trees using compass tsaka meter tape. So ang nakuha natin sa compass, of course, is your bearing na pwede mo i-convert into azimuth and the horizontal distance na in meters, di ba? So if you have those information, then you can plot the location of the tree, di ba? And then you can use the azimuth and distance plugin. So itong si azimuth and distance plugin natin, actually, ay isang plugin siya dito sa taas. Meron tayong plugins. Then we have the manage and install plugins. Then we have here the azimuth and distance plugin. Okay? So when we have the azimuth and distance plugin, lalabas dito yung topography. Then we have here the azimuth and distance na window, di ba? And if we want to map our trees na nasukat natin from our circular plot, kasi sa circular plots naman, usually ang reckoning point natin or the reference point is the center of the plot. Pag rectangles naman, corners, di ba? So yun dapat yung isiset mo munang starting point dito. So kapag may starting point ka, na usually yung gitna, no, nakalimutan ko lang ilagay yung point, but you can actually add a specific point para specific din yung starting point mo dito. Then you need to have the layer for the trees. Meron tayong layer ng trees dito na blanco pa siya, of course, kasi wala pa siyang laman. And then we can now add the azimuth. Kung halimbawa may na-survey kayong 10 na trees dyan sa loob ng circular plot, then you can just encode the azimuth. For example, mga 35 degrees. Then you can add the distance. For example, 7 meters from the center of the circular plot. Then you can add that. So lalabas siya dito. Okay? Ayan siya, oh. Kung nakikita ninyo sa aking screen, kita siya. And then you can generate the feature by clicking the draw. Then lagyan natin ng ID. Okay? So lalabas yung feature natin dito sa trees as an attribute. Okay? So yan ang gamit ng ating azimuth. Okay? Azimuth and distance na tool. So separate, andin ito, is a separate learning activity then for us. Okay? Now, we can also employ form-based field collection. Kapag yung ating area naman ay hindi naman ganun kakapal yung canopy, like for example, campus trees, kung gusto ninyong inventory yung campus trees, then you can use forms-based field collection. No? So yung unan dito sa listahan ko, if you have ArcGIS, you can use ArcGIS Survey 123. So connected yung collection system mo sa internet, naka-cloud siya. So meron ka lang phone na may ArcGIS Survey 123 app, you go to the ground, you encode using the form, and then mag-store siya doon sa cloud mo. So ganun ang ginagawa ni ArcGIS Survey 123. Then pag tiningnan yon ng manager, ng moderator, nandun na yung mga trees, yung mga points natin. But we can also save. Now we can save some money if we use open source data or open source software such as itong introduce ko, the Kobo Toolbox Suite. Okay? So Kobo Toolbox Suite was developed by the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative and it's free to sign up. Medyo same yung functionality ni Kobo Toolbox and ni Survey 123, no? So ano ba ang ginagawa ni Kobo Toolbox? Kay Kobo Toolbox kasi, since it's a form-based field collection, you need to build and design the forms first. So kung ito ay forest inventory, ano yung mga information na kailangan mo? No? So nandyan yung the name of the species, the name of the tree, the diameter, and the conservation status, for example. And then don't forget to include the geographic location. Kasi dito sa form-based field collection, you can add an element of geographic location. So meaning when you go to the ground, pwedeng ma-detect yung coordinates mo, mare-record din siya, 'di ba? So hindi lang 'yun yung application, pwede rin sa household survey, ganun din yung concept niya, 'di ba? So when you conduct household survey, when you go from house to house, pwedeng ma-record din yung location ng house tsaka yung responses ng mga tao doon. So that's why you need to build and design the forms first. Then you conduct the survey proper, no, using your tablet or your phone. So yun yung kagandahan kay Kobo Toolbox, you can just use your phone. And then finally, you process the data, after downloading the entries doon sa internet. Kasi sa internet magso-store yung entries, ida-download mo lang siya, spreadsheet ito, then you can build your figures, your bar graphs, your charts. Okay? So yan ang nangyayari sa field collection system. Now, itong Kobo Toolbox natin, since it's an open source tool, you can also mention this in your publications, no? Actually, we have a research on the resorts sa Pansol and sa Los Baños, no? We utilized Kobo Toolbox. Kasi ang ginamit namin doon ay rapid field work lang. Kumbaga, 1 day lang ang meron kami, 1 to 5 days. So kailangan namin ng maraming enumerators at kulang kami sa equipment. So we used Kobo Toolbox. Yung mga cellphone lang nila yung gamit nila. But you still need internet later on. Kapag i-load mo na yung entries, yung mga responses doon sa repository or sa internet, kailangan mo ng internet. So yung mga enumerators namin, kumonect din sila sa Wi-Fi or gumamit sila ng mobile data para pumasok yung mga entries nila. So easy to use lang siya. Web-based graphical user interface, madali siyang i-navigate. And then meron din siyang sariling app, yung Kobo Collect, no? But if you have multiple enumerators, pag marami kayong magsa-survey, kasi halimbawa given ka lang ng 5 days para inventory ang mga puno sa campus mo, di kailangan mo na mas marami tao na may access doon sa questionnaire mo, di ba? Ayan. So nangyayari, pwedeng may link lang na ibibigay from the Kobo Toolbox Suite, may mabubuo na link URL na ibibigay mo doon sa enumerator, i-access niya using his or her browser app. Pwede rin siya gumamit ng Kobo Collect. Then magsa-survey na siya. Pupunta siya sa tree or sa household. Okay? Then you can store the data doon sa cloud. Nandun na siya sa internet natin. Then you can view the data, then download, tapos gawa ka na ng mga graphs and mga charts, no? But in GIS, since meron kang longitude and latitude, you can map the responses. No? Kaya dyan papasok ngayon yung gamit natin sa inventory or sa environmental research, no? Sa surveys natin. You can map the responses. Okay? Si Kobo Toolbox, of course, nandito lang siya sa kobotoolbox.org. You can just create an account for everyone else. Kasi tayo naman, we consider ourselves as researchers. So you can just create for researcher, and we can store up to 10,000 submissions or entries per month. Then 5 gigabytes na storage lang. Okay? Kasi ito namang si humanitarian, I think may certain organizations lang na pwedeng mag-subscribe dyan. Kasi yun yung original purpose ni Kobo Toolbox. No? Then when you have your account, you can build your forms from scratch. You can use a template. Or if you have a form from your XLS, I think sa spreadsheet ito, kapag gumawa ka sa spreadsheet ng form, pwede mong i-import doon. But we usually build from scratch, no? Kasi hindi ako marunong gumamit ng XLS. So we build from scratch to make sure that the geographic locations are also included in the question. Dapat hindi mawala yon kasi yun yung prime, yun yung objective mo para mamapa mo siya. Kailangan may information ka ng longitude and latitude. Ba? And then merong link na mabubuo, no? Ibibigay mo sa enumerator, and then the enumerator goes around, tapos pag pinindot niya yung geographic location at naka-enable yung location services nung phone niya, then marirecord yung latitude and longitude niya in degrees. Okay? So the concept here is actually what we call assisted GPS. Kasi gumagamit tayo ng cellular data, ibig sabihin yung phone natin nagde-depend or nagre-rely sa mga cell sites natin to get the information. So pag marami ding buildings, mapuno, at saka nasa ilalim ka ng building, ng gusali, no, there's a chance na hindi rin ganun kalakas yung makukuha mo. Okay? Pag nagre-rely ka lang sa cellular or mobile data na location. But if you're using Wi-Fi, I think yung Wi-Fi accurate din siya kahit nasa loob ka ng bahay, no? Kasi yung location mo naman based doon sa router mo. So maayos yung pag-estimate ng location mo pag Wi-Fi, no? But if you're outside, then you can just use the smart or the globe mobile data to get your location. Pero hindi rin siya ganun ka-accurate. Kaya may processing, may post-processing pang involved. No, we usually edit the location sa Google Earth Pro para maging accurate yung location niya. Okay? So ang kagandahan ni Kobo Toolbox, this can run offline. So isang beses ka lang mag-online at yun ay para i-calibrate yung location mo. Then pwede ka nang mag-offline, then punta ka na sa field, tapos mag-store pa din siya dito. No? Then later on, pag may internet ka na ulit, you can load the information itself. Okay? So it works offline. Yun yung kagandahan, no? Your records will be queued and it will be stored, no, inside your phone. You can also download the contents, no, in your phone para mag-manual upload ka sa Kobo Toolbox kung hindi talaga mag-upload. Okay? So yun yung kagandahan ni Kobo Toolbox. You can use this offline. Okay? And then finally, you can download. No, you can download the responses as an Excel file. So pag Excel file na siya, meron siyang longitude and latitude, then you can use QGIS to load itong mga points na to. Then you can adjust using the XYZ tiles or the Google Earth Pro. So connected na siya doon, no? So in the context of forest inventory naman, pag urban trees or campus trees, yun, pwede mong i-adjust para sumakto dun sa eksaktong puno sa location ng individual tree na yun. Kasi pag urban trees naman or campus trees, usually magkakalayo sila. So mas madali mong ma-adjust yung mga individual trees mo. No? So yun yung kagandahan ng Kobo Toolbox. So ito yun, ito yung website niya. So just log in. Okay? And then here, you have your deployed forms, you have your drafts. No? So ginamit ko itong Kobo Toolbox when I trained some personnel dun sa DNR. No? So nagpa-sample response ako sa kanila, and yung entries, meron akong total of 7 entries dito. Okay? So makikita mo dito yung mga responses mo. Okay? So nandito sa data tab naman, nandyan yung mga individual person. Okay? Yung mga respondents mo. Then meron tayong initial report. Actually, ayan, meron tayong frequency. Meron tayong percentage no response. Okay? So yung mga basic statistical information nandyan. And an initial map no nung responses. So kung ikaw ay nagpapa-household survey, pwede mo makita dito initially kung nasaan yung mga respondents mo. Then you can also call out, no? Pwede mong i-delete kung ano ba may na-double entry or may mali, so pwede mong i-delete dito. Okay? So kailangan kung ikaw si moderator, ikaw yung nagpapa-survey, kailangan nandito ka sa Kobo Toolbox habang nagko-collect ng data yung mga enumerators mo. Okay? Para makita mo din kung tama yung pumapasok or walang pumapasok, di ba? So ito naman na example namin sa resorts inventory. Okay? So nagkaroon kami ng resorts inventory kasi ang gusto namin makuha dito yung hotspots, no? In relation to groundwater, kailangan malaman muna namin yung demand, the demand side. So we did an inventory of the resorts. So meron tayong initial na distribution map ng mga resorts dito. Ano? So I think we can also do that for PSAU, yung mga trees natin or other kinds of survey. Pwede natin gamitan ng Kobo Toolbox. Then finally, your data can be downloaded as an Excel. Okay, tapos yung Excel na yan, meron diyang X and Y information. And yun yung gagamitin mo ngayon, kasi ito yun yung X and Y, geographic location. Yan yung gagamitin mo ngayon para magkaroon ng mapa. Okay? So very useful siya for inventory or resource assessment na hindi naman masyadong concern yung signal. Diba? Now to summarize the steps in forms-based collection, the first is you need to create the survey, you need to design the form, you need to define the questions, ay mga informations na hinahanap mo, okay? Then you need to modify the settings kasi yung questionnaire mo, kung halimbawa rapid survey ito, dapat di ka na gumamit ng mga next, di ba? Kasi yung mga questionnaire natin, minsan pag web-based siya, meron kayo next, tapos next question. So medyo time ano siya, nagpo-cost ng time mo. So pwedeng i-modify mo yung form mo na isang diretso lang siya, na isang pindot lang yung dulo yung submit para mabilisan. Then you can deploy after previewing the survey form. You can deploy, mapunta na kayo sa ground, okay? Then share. Bigay mo dun sa mga enumerators. Okay? So I think these tools that I introduced to you can be used in environmental research and can be used in other research activities, surveys, inventory, no? And I hope na kahit papaano medyo karoon kayo ng interest sa paggamit ng Kobo Toolbox. Okay? And of course the QGIS natin. So I think that ends my presentation this morning. So thank you very much po sa ating lahat.
Thank you for that very informative presentation, Sir John. But before we move on to the open forum, we would like to remind our participants to accomplish both the attendance and the post-evaluation to be able to receive a certificate. The link will be sent on our Zoom chat box and also in the comment section of our FB Live. Also, for PSAU students, kindly use your personal Gmail accounts instead of your Eskwela accounts to be able to receive your certificate. Thank you. So to start our open forum, Sir John, are you ready?
Yes, okay na, ready.
Okay, let me ask the co-hosts if there are questions in the Facebook comments. Oh, Sir Je, you have a question?
Morning, Sir JJ.
Ay, morning
Morning.
po. Morning.
Sir, actually, very familiar ako dito sa Kobo Toolbox dahil nagamit ko siya sa dissertation. So, in a different purpose. So, though, ginamit ko din siya para i-map out yung mga household surveys, yung mga households. So, ang question ko is, this does not replace pa rin yung mga ano natin, no? Yung pag gumagamit tayo ng mga GPS reader. Kumbaga, it will not really replace doon
Yes.
yung sa GPS reader, but it could be a supplement ba or parang additional input lang.
Actually, sir, yes po. No? We cannot really replace our GPS receivers kasi yun talaga yung specific tool for determining your geographic location. But if you don't have one, for example, wala kang GPS receiver talaga, and kung meron din naman, pwede mong gamitin as a supplement or to verify the location. So ano lang to, in case na wala kang GPS receiver, tapos meron ka namang mobile phone, so you can use Kobo Toolbox as a good substitute, kumbaga.
Hindi siya parang hindi siya magagamit sa dito. Let's say pag area na walang signal. Tama ba?
Actually, sir, yun yung downside niya, but you can initially set your location doon sa questionnaire mo kasi may ano naman yung phone mo parang may memory siya, kaya niyang ma-ascertain yung location mo. So kung halimbawa pupunta ka sa isang lugar na wala talagang signal, wala talagang connection ng internet, then doon pa lang sa bahay siguro pwede mo nang i-open, pwede mo nang buksan yung location services mo, pwede mo nang i-load si Kobo Toolbox form to initially determine your location. Then pag pumunta ka na sa field, mag-estimate or ano naman yun, kumbaga i-estimate niya na lang yung layo mo doon sa initial na may known location.
Okay. So kahit pa paano, pwede pa rin siya magamit doon sa, let's say kung checking for the location. Kasi when I was using this years back, 2 years ago I think, or 3 years ago, parang doon sa mga area na wala akong internet, hindi ko na siya ginamit yung area. Di ba kasi parang, to check for the location. Kasi parang, di ba yung i-click mo lang yon tapos i-point out niya kung nasaan ka sa map. So hindi ko na siya ginamit. Though ang kagandahan kasi talaga nito, actually hindi lang naman for mapping yung use niya. Ang kagandahan niya kasi it could be used for different surveys. And I believe, parang I believe yung sa PhilSys, yung Philippine, yung national ID natin,
yes, sir.
They were actually using this dinata for surveys. So yun yung kagandahan niya, that that's not just only used, it cannot only be used for environmental researches, yung parang sa inventory, but also sa mga surveys. Kasi hindi niya kailangan internet basically, di ba?
Yes,
parang hindi niya kailangan ng internet kapag nagsa-survey ka.
Yes.
Hindi siya yung parang Google form na you need internet every now and then. Yun yung naging, actually nung nagsa-survey nga ako, ito yung na-explore ko to because of that kind of feature na kahit wala akong signal dun sa area, pero pagdating ko sa bahay, I can throw all the data that I have doon sa server ng Kobo.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing this.
Yun yung kwan niya, yun yung parang strength niya kasi isang beses mo lang kailangan magkaroon ng internet access at yun ay para ma-initialize yung location mo. Then when you conduct the naman na hindi siya mag-load, di ba sir? Pwede namang i-download mo sa phone mo, then manually i-upload mo siya sa internet. So ganun siya. And ano siya parang yun nga, kung halimbawa nagmamadali ka na ma-inventory yung isang area, so pwedeng maraming taong nag-access ng form. Marami kang enumerators. So yun po yung parang advantage.
Oo. Yeah, ginamit ko din siya pero dapat 'di ba connected siya sa isang server.
Nasa ano naman siya, nasa cloud na, yung sa website
cloud.
So okay siya.
Thank you Sir JJ for sharing this. Kasi ang isa pang ina-explore ko dito actually for the biodiversity assessment, yung 'di ba usually parang may pre-list ka naman, may inventory ka na. Tapos yung sarang pipiliin kaya hindi ko pa siya magawa. Parang hindi ko ma-design form. Oo. Yun yung isa pang ano. Though before I also use it for water quality assessment. Naman yung parang ginagamit ko siya for yung parang pag-input ng data para mabilis yung
yes, sir, actually,
processing.
Yun yung maganda
sa sky's the limit siya. Yung imagination na lang talaga yung magmamatter kung paano mo siya gagamitin. So, ayun sir, thank you for sharing this. It's actually very helpful. Especially for those students na they will do parang inventory assessment and yung sa biodiversity assessment, or pagkuha lang ng simple data, yung mga simple coordinates in their area. It will be very helpful. Thank you, sir.
We have another question, Sir John. Do base maps, say Google Earth and others, provide real-time imagery of locations?
Real-time location po? Ano ba yung tanong ulit?
Do base maps, say Google Earth and others, provide real-time imagery of locations?
Real-time imagery. Hindi po. No? Yung niloload kasi ni Google Earth ay yung best date, no? Best quality. So, yung araw lang na pinakamaganda, yun yung ilo-load niya as base map. So, isa rin yun sa mga considerations, no? Kung halimbawa yung research mo ay time dependent or talagang may kailangan ganitong araw siya. So, baka hindi yun pwede. So, ano lang yun. Kasi yung best na day lang yung kino-consider, yung nilo-load. But if you want to take a look at the other dates nung particular area na yon, pwedeng gumamit ka ng Google Earth Pro na app, yung separate na software to view the different dates. Pero I'm not sure kung nagre-real time. I think hindi siya nagre-real time. No? So may mga certain months or years pa nga actually, no, na kumukuha lang siya ng image. Kasi baga yung satellite natin umiikot siya. So baga there's a parang period kung kailan siya babalik para kuhanan yung area natin.
So kunwari sir, wet season po ngayon, tapos may isang lugar po na mababa, tapos flooded siya, hindi po natin masyado makikita na flooded siya. No?
Hindi natin siya makikita. Pag ganyan siguro, pwedeng mag-ano ka na talaga yung sa field na, no? Doon mo na alamin. Pag ganyan naman, tinatanong usually sa residents, di ba, kung hanggang saan, tapos kukunin yung coordinates nun, tapos i-take note na lang kung hanggang saan tumaas yung baha. Parang ganun yung nakikita ko dyan. Hindi siya kaya ng Google Earth Pro.
Sir Jeff po, may tanong ulit, Sir Jeff.
Follow up lang doon sa question kanina. Sir JJ, ano kaya yung pwedeng gawin kapag halimbawa yung kasi halimbawa wet season pero kailangan yung data, ano yung kaya yung pwedeng alternative na let's say sa maps, kumbaga kung ganitong season hindi na pwedeng, kumbaga hindi mapuntahan, ano kaya yung pwedeng alternative doon? So doon na ba papasok si remote sensing?
Depende sa kung anong ine-examine nating feature doon. Pero kung halimbawa naman discernible siya or nakikita siya sa satellite image, then yes, we can use remote sensing para sa mga ganong activities.
Sensor kaya pwedeng magandang mag-source out ng mga ganitong maps?
Ayun. So, ang pinaka mababang available online is si Sentinel. Sentinel-2 ay 10 meters. Pero dahil tayo naman ay nasa government, nasa PSAU, pwede tayong mag-request sa 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 ASTI, sa DOST ng kanilang Pedro tsaka yung world view images nila. So meron silang mga high resolution remote sensing satellite images available in certain areas. So ginamit actually namin 'yon, pero hindi lahat ng area sa Pilipinas meron. So maswerte na lang kung yung area natin ay may kopya sila ng satellite image yun. Kasi ano yun mga minsan 5 meters, minsan 2 meters, gano'n. So sa DOST, sir, pwede tayong kumuha ng request.
Okay.
Libre.
Pwede pala. So, hindi kasi ang ginagamit ko before is USGS.
Yes, sir.
Yung
Ano yun?
diba? Pero 30 by 30 yata. 30 by 30. So, medyo nagpipixelate siya kapag pixelated talaga siya. At, lalo na kung maliit yung area.
Yes. So, ano talaga, kailangan mag-resort sa yung kung meron ang DOST, kuha tayo sa kanila kung maliit lang.
Pero yung mga, di ba, may dahil satellite images siya, yung mga cloud sa taas, di ba usually it covers the area. So, lalo na pag may bagyo. So, hindi ba natin to ma-filter? Or kaya ba siyang i-filter through remote sensing?
Depende siya sa instrument na dala nung satellite. Itong si Worldview, I think itong mga satellites na meron si DOST, mga ano to, mga cloud free itong meron sila. Baga natanggal na yung clouds. So high resolution talaga siya.
Masubukan niya.
Oo. Kasi yun pala din yung concern no dun kay Landsat or kay Sentinel. Dahil may clouds, yun lang. Pag rainy season, hindi natin makikita yung nasa ilalim kasi may clouds. So pwede tayong mag-off doon sa higher resolution images or yung mga satellites na kayang mag-penetrate sa clouds na meron si DOST. Or, we can use drone. Pero si drone kasi picture lang talaga siya. Wala siyang mga bands or yung mga kailangan nating mga attributes na near infrared, for example, wala tayo nun.
Thank you, Sir JJ.
So tutuan mo lang to add to that to response yung Google Earth na tile lang natin is for base map lang talaga just to examine ano yung general land use or land cover ng area but if we want a specific na date or a specific na period nung area na yon, hindi siya ma-cover nung Google Earth na base map.
Thank you for that, Sir John. Let me remind the Zoom participants that if you have questions, you may raise your hands. And if you are shy to ask live, you can type your message in the Zoom chat box. Another question, sir, from Facebook. Is there a tool that also gives a species list of trees along with its geographical distribution?
Specific tool, wala tayong ganun nata as far as I know, pero baka may alam yung ibang mga expert ecologists natin or taxonomists. Pero may mga tayo, mga journal references, mga publications that we can take a look at if we want to know yung parang general geographic distribution niya. Pero as far as the software, parang wala ata tayong ganun. Especially for the Philippines. Maraming kumbaga development sa field ng ecology and taxonomy. So I'm not sure if nailagay na yun sa isang software. So baka hindi pa.
Thank you for that, sir. Are there any more questions from Zoom, Facebook? Huwag na po kayong mahiya. Nandito po si Sir John para sumagot ng inyong mga katanungan. I think wala na po. Okay, so let's proceed na po for the awarding of certificate. Let me just share my screen. Before all that, let us offer a virtual clap for our resource speaker for today, who shared his time and expertise. I hope everyone have enjoyed listening and learning today as much as I did. To give our appreciation for your passion for science and your devotion to share your knowledge to the people, the Pampanga State Agricultural University, through the College of Arts and Sciences, represented by Dr. Evelyn Totaan, the External and Internal Affairs Office, represented by Dr. Rafael, the Innovation Center for Agroecology, Climate Change, and Agripreneurship, represented by Dr. Gerald Salas, and the PSAU Biology Society award this certificate. Allow me to read Pampanga State Agricultural University, PAC Magalang, Pampanga, College of Arts and Sciences, Department of Biology, External and Internal Affairs Office, Innovation Center for Agroecology, Climate Change, and Agripreneurship, and the PSAU Biology Society award this certificate of appreciation to Mr. John Joseph Dida for his invaluable service as a resource speaker during the PSAU Hainayan webinar series plus PSAU live session, Geographic Information System in Environmental Research, virtually hosted by Pampanga State University, PSAU on August 16, 2021. Given the 16th day of August 2021, signed by the OIC and Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Anita G. David.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. The link for our post evaluation form is now available. But before all that, let's have a photo of. May I call on Dr. Smiles. As we have, wait, let me just stop my share. So we have 3 panels. Maybe just hold on to your smiles for a few seconds. And okay, 1, 2, 3. Next panel, 1, 2, 3. And lastly, habang nagpo-photo op po tayo, remind ko lang po na sagutan ng ating post-evaluation and attendance form for us to receive our certificate. Once again, for PSAU students, use your Gmail accounts instead of your Eskwela accounts. May I take this time to invite everyone to join us again to our next PSAU Hainayan webinar series. All information and updates about this will be posted at our official FB page. Just look for PSAU Biology Society in Facebook and follow us. Tech team, okay na po ba yung screenshot? Okay. At this closing instance, thank you for supporting our second PSAU Hainayan webinar series.
Good morning po. Good morning po. Yes po.
We hope to see you again soon at our next webinars. Your active and dynamic participation has made this webinar a success. This has been your host, Jimel Peñafel. Thank you and stay safe, everyone. Thank you po.
Thank you. Thank you, Sir Gerald. Thank you po sa mga prof na matende.
Thank you, Sir JJ.
Thank you, sir.
Stay safe, everyone. Thank you. Follow our page for more updates.